It's so prevalent these days that it's practically an epidemic, with a third of all youth suffering from it around the world. And it can be difficult for parents to help their targeted children cope, because it seems everyone has a different approach to dealing with a bully.
I think I was bullied in middle school, for real. I didn't really get like picked on some day-to-day-ish ever, so I can't really speak for people that's been like severely bullied by like their peers and stuff. Even though I did feel like I didn't fit in, and then I never tried to really, because I always knew like trying to be like everybody else is not, it's gonna make you happy. Like, even when you fit in or you get the things that make people feel more inclined to accept you, those aren't your people, because they're worried about what's on you and not what's in you. Also, they probably hate their life at home. But that's like so condensed into like 2 sentences when it's like really much more vast than that. But you know, I was only bullied after I moved schools. By the time it was around 5th grade and 6th grade time, like I want to say 10 to 11 years old for me, I moved cities and schools. And I was in elementary school when I was in 5th grade. And my elementary school at the time before moving went all the way to 6th grade. But by the time I moved cities, you had only the elementary schools that went up to 5th grade. So I couldn't stay in elementary school. By the time I moved, I had to like be bumped up to middle school in the middle of the year, and it was so traumatizing and shocking to me because I wasn't like so ready to grow up like that. In my head, in my 6th grade head, I finished it in middle school, but getting there and seeing all the lockers and all the older kids, and like, you know, naturally 7th and 8th graders were older than you, but they just tended to look a lot more older sometimes because they were trying to look older and be grown as hell. But I think it was the lockers. But basically, I only got bullied for like just like being the new kid, and then like my mom smoked like a lot of cigarettes, so I think I talked about that before. It was just like I got picked on for smoking like cigarettes. And I got over that. Over time, it was like they're gonna pick on me for something I don't do or didn't do at the time. No matter what I do, no matter how much I showered or how much I cleaned up after myself. And you know, laundry is hung up in the house, so even if your clothes were clean, whoever's smoking up in the house was like with no windows open, didn't really consider that kids were mean. But that's my little trauma dump for the day. There was this one kid, this is just for relatability purposes, there was this one kid that was like Hispanic, and I remember their name so vividly. It's him and his friends. I think one day I was at lunch and they were just like picking on me, like they kept trying to like call me like the U word, and I was like, okay, I guess boys are gonna be boys. Like, if you don't have like huge tits by the time you're like 12, or like you're not basically looking like and dressing like everybody else, they're gonna think, oh, she's mid, or she's not all that, because they're kids. So they weren't all that at all. But we know, like now, like when somebody bullies you, your first instinct is not to look at them and go, you just think about what they said to you. So yeah, this kid and his friends was trying to make me feel like unattractive, like pretty much the whole school year, because I was like really much darker than I am right now. Like I stayed outside in the sun, and then stayed outside, and I didn't wear any sunscreen. Side note, black people, please wear sunscreen, because you will get hyperpigmentation from the sun if you don't. And for the longest time, up here and up to my neck or down to my neck was like 10 times darker than the rest of me. because I thought black people didn't need sunscreen. So as soon as I started wearing sunscreen, everything started to like even out, especially in the back. But point is, they ended up getting on Facebook, and I was on Facebook at the time, and everybody at that age was trying to have a Facebook and connect with all their peers and stuff. And they found mine, and they were just like writing on my wall and being mean. So I was definitely bullied a little bit. I like to sell my negative experiences really short, and I don't like to give it too much credit, like, oh, that was horrible, because it's like, yeah, it was. Like, they were just really like colorist and like rude. Like, I didn't have braces yet, so my teeth were not how they look right now. So I felt really, really horrible. Like, and that really was the stem for why I wrote so negatively about myself all the time in high school, because of that one kid and his group of friends that was just bullying me. But, you know, I think everybody's been picked on a little bit, and the degree depends on how well you can stand up for yourself. So if you're getting bullied, I mean, I'm not saying like beat them up or like yell at them or like bully them back, but definitely like do what you can, or just literally ignore their opinion, because everything is important at that age. But I think what made it easier to remember that bullies are just gonna be bullies is like the fact that they would turn around and play or bully each other, and their friendships didn't last long, I noticed. So I just stayed away from making friends and being friends with people, especially if they were mean to others. I just thought, I don't want to be friends with any girl or guy that just thinks it's okay to bully somebody. I thought it was just bad juju.
Getting bullied.
The longer you let someone step all over you, the longer it's going to go on.
If you saw a father urging his son to use violence to stop a bully, what would you do?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I think my mom really understood that my bullies were like boys, and I think boys are confused around that age. Like, they think being mean to somebody they like, whether they liked me or not, whether they thought I was actually ugly or not, I'm saying boys around that age, they think, or around that development, they're learning like tricks and mind games to get girls. So some boys grow up thinking that to get the girl you like, you have to be mean to her, and that applies to a certain type of girl. Like, if you notice your interactions with someone is like leaving more of a negative impact than positive, whether your goal is to be with them or not, I would really not be on that. I think my mom made me just close my Facebook account at the time, and then also she just made me stay off the computer, like social media, too much. Like, I would play on the computer but games and stuff. Like, she just was like trying to teach me in a way. It was like, if it was girls, I really would want you to do the same thing, but especially since it's the opposite sex, just like avoid it. So I think that would be my solution, just because it did work. Like, it just worked the fastest. Like, I just moved along with my school year.
They torment you at school, and now you're here.
Well, my dad wants me to beat them up.
I can understand your dad's point. However, it's one thing to defend yourself. It's another thing to start a fight.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's one thing to defend yourself. Yeah, defend yourself. Like, if somebody puts their hands on you, like, in a way where you know it could cause you serious harm. Like, I'm saying, if there's like a brawl or a real threat, then use self-defense. Sometimes even somebody hitting you is not worth fighting back for real. It really is like called self-defense, because at that point you are defending yourself, like, from some serious ish. Just like people have guns. Self-defense with a gun should be like the last option. So like, same goes for fighting. Like, you don't want to really be fighting or using your gun unless you know that noise you heard or that guy that don't fuck with you is like out to get you.
He didn't leave the table. He was upset, so I just sat with him. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
That's the thing boys need sometimes too, is like they don't need somebody to tell them to toughen up about the challenges in life, when, you know, they probably just need somebody to talk to them or make them feel like you're not alone in that fight. Like, or, yeah, basically don't make people feel like they have to handle shit all on their own. Because while it's good to be able to protect yourself, it's good to be able to talk to people and not have to use your hands or violence just to get a point across. Like, now I'm not saying let somebody B-word you around, especially if it's like boys, because like they do have more testosterone and stuff, like naturally, so it's good to like have them play and rough themselves up a little bit if they're like athletic like that. But just pay attention to like your kid. Like, they're more of a strong-minded kid. I guess self-defense wouldn't be such a bad lesson, but like just make sure you teach them like not just buck wild, like F everything, F them. They hurt my feelings, so I have to hurt them. And it's like, no. Sometimes it really is good to pick your battles and like pick your poison. Yes. You then are just stooping to that level, like if you have to fight back every time or say something every time, it's giving like, you're not even defending yourself anymore. You're just becoming the bully. You're playing with them, playing back and forth with them. It's like, no. Also, another thing, while it's good to teach people or your kids like how you grew up in this world, or how you came to be who you are and what worked for you, I really don't think it's a good idea to make kids grow up basically living the same life you did. Like, you teach them things to have under their belt for the sake of like knowledge, not so much for repeating like any negative, nasty cycles for a long run in this, where people mix up discipline versus like setting their own get up for failure again.
Where the heck is John Quinones? You are fierce.
I'm sorry, even whether it was a TV show or not.
And our dad hammers home the message. They'll only stop if you fight back.
But yeah, I was gonna say, this kind of ties into like when dads have a son sometimes and they really want their son to be like a representation of them, like, or who they want it to be in the world a little bit. Sometimes that could become a little more toxic than other times. Like when parents, period, start like living vicariously through you. But I think it's important to like know your child, because like, you know, there's a difference between gentle parenting and like, I guess you can call it like regular parenting. And then there's like some parents that feel like their sons should not be inside all the time, or pansying around, or like reading and like educating themselves and being like a nerd. They think they should be outside just because they're a boy, and they should be getting rough and like experiencing like pretty much the scarier things in life on some like, be outside, son, be strong like dad. And that kid was like a really gentle, sensitive kid, and then just sitting him outside. to teach him some things about life. Is like, you just taught him that he's not allowed to be like in a safe space. You just taught him like he had to be forced to learn the world, especially under the, how do you call it, impression like I'm learning the world is scary and I should be getting out there learning how to be scary, or like not being scared, or like basically they're just gonna feel like, why would my parent want me to be exposing myself or risking my safety? Just to be strong. Or just understand how the world works. And the world works in many, many ways. And your kid can't grow up like every other dude or every other person. I don't know, if you have a child, I would suggest don't teach them to stoop to a bully's level. Like, even though yes, it's good to be able to defend yourself in many forms, like verbal and physical, it's just honestly better in the long run to teach people how to like have critical thinking, or dodge bullets, or like not burn bridges per se, or like create chaos and like this like back and forth game with people that clearly show their true colors. Because you're only hurting yourself when you don't basically forgive someone, right? Or you're only hurting yourself for real when you harbor this negativity or like hatred for someone or something. Whether they feel the same way or not, leave that up on them, basically, because some people want to drag you into their misery. Like, that goes for bullies, or like just people that are just unhappy. Like, so just know that